Episode number 4. We're back. Another episode of the Towing the Line podcast with me, your host. I have acknowledged the fact that I need to be louder, so I'm either going to talk louder or I'm going to bring the volume up once I've finished recording. I'll listen to it and make sure that it is loud enough so that you can listen to it and not have to have your phone on maximum volume, because that is a big no-no. I hate when that happens, when I'm listening to a podcast and I'm trying to carry my phone around and listen to it at the same time. And it's on max and I still can't hear it. That shits me. So I don't want to be doing that with my own podcast. So I will endeavor to solve that problem. I'm going to try and talk at the mic too. I have a big problem with, the mic being in front of me, and then I'll turn my head to the side and talk away from it, because I'm pretending like someone's here, but no one's really here. So I'm just going to make sure I try and talk directly at the microphone the entire time. Anyway, yes, another week in the books. Another podcast currently being recorded. I don't know about you guys, but this week was a pretty good week. It was very cold though, far out. So this was the first week I've successfully hit the gym 3 times, done 3 successful weight sessions. I did a squat vertical push-pull, which is like you're moving in the vertical plane. So like pull-ups for the pull and I guess overhead press for the push. Then I did squat push-pull vertical, and then I did hinge push-pull horizontal plane, which is more like, I don't know, your bench press or your loaded push-ups, your deadlift, and like your bent over rows, because you're working in that horizontal plane of movement. So that was good. And then on Friday, hit a fucking basically just a party pump session. Just did some bench and some arms with a bit of skiing in there, and it was wonderful. And then went and watched Black Widow, which was it was pretty good. It was very good. It was actually really enjoyable. So I would recommend that to anyone who is looking for a movie to go watch. Go and see Black Widow. It does not let you down. There were some emotional moments in that movie, I will not lie. I did shed a tear. So, yeah, would recommend. 10 out of 10. No, not as good as Endgame or the Justice League Snyder Cut. If you haven't seen that too, fucking watch it. It's 4 hours of, split it up over 2 days, I think. But if you're into superhero movies, watch the Snyder Cut, especially if you've already seen Justice League. The Snyder Cut is amazing. It fills in so many fucking gaps and just covers off so many more stories or plot holes that were there, or stuff that they just breezed over. So watch that too. Hot movie recommendations coming in from your boy, Anthony. What else did I do this week? Not much. I did listen to I shared it to my Instagram story, but it was a super cool, thought-provoking podcast with Joe Rogan and Michael Pollan. And it was basically about plants, not from a vegan perspective, but from just plants in general. How I was looking away from the mic. How plants are, I guess they've got minds of their own. They adapt to situations. Like, you look at the defense mechanisms that certain plants have, that they can actually, if you look at, I guess, hallucinogenic mushrooms and stuff like that. That's a defense mechanism for the plant, because you eat the plant and then you fucking trip balls and, forget, I guess, what the plant looked like, where it is, anything. You forget anything about it. Either that or you eat too much of it and you fucking die if you're an animal. So that, the plants create those defense mechanisms in order to survive. That, to me, that is wild. And then Michael made an example of, there are trees. I can't remember what type of tree it was, but anyway, the gist of it was, when caterpillars land and start eating the leaves of this certain tree, it will send out a signal for other trees around it to release a toxin or a chemical into their leaves or into their, into the tree, that will actually make the leaves really bitter and disgusting, so that if the caterpillar goes to eat it, it'll be like, ugh, this is gross, instead of, chomping it down. So yeah, they just talked about shit like that, it was pretty fucking mind-blowing, if I'm honest. It made me think, like, we think we're so goddamn intelligent, but we're intelligent in our own plane of knowledge. We are not intelligent in these other, like, we're not intelligent in respect, like, plants are their own form of intelligence. Like, you look at dolphins are their own form of intelligence. We're intelligent by our standards, but their standards are completely fucking different. Like, you look at plants have been around for fucking forever, and they've been adapting this whole time. The poisonous plants, every plant has a different, I guess, defense mechanism, way to defend itself against the wild. So yeah, it was just mind-blowing. So if you're looking for a good, informative listen that's gonna blow your mind, then chuck that one on. I can't remember what episode number it was, but it was very, very good. And what else did I do this week? All I know is I went for a few. Sorry, that'll probably blow your eardrums out. I went for a few runs in the morning, and it was fucking cold. Holy shit! I wore gloves, obviously, but it was so icy. Insane. Like, and it's always, I probably miss when it gets super cold, because I'm usually done by 6 o'clock, 6:15. I've usually finished my run by then, and then, like, I find, like, 6:30 to 7, or 6:30 to 7:30, even 6:30 to 8 o'clock, it is the fucking coldest shit ever. I felt it. So yesterday I went for a ride with James and one of his mates, Sean. We went, like, we're cutting laps of the neighborhood. We went all sorts of different places, and it was fucking freezing. We left at like 6:30. It was so cold. And I find, like, it was cold but bearable until it got to like 6:45, and then it was fucking freezing, and it was freezing until like 8 o'clock, and then it starts to kind of back off again. When the sun rises, not a good time to be out there. So yeah, I felt that I probably avoided the brunt of it during the week, but this weekend, yesterday and today, I had another ride. Left it would have been 7 o'clock, so I was like right in the middle of the fucking freezing coldness. Decided to ride up King Lake, which is where I live. It's a bit of a hill. So I decided just to ride up there and down, and it gave me I was supposed to do an hour 40, but I ended up doing 2 hours, or just over 2. But yeah, it was fucking freezing. And then as I started to gain elevation, it was fine, because I was obviously above where it was cold. And heat rises, I suppose. So it was great as I was climbing. And then as I got to the top, I was like, this is fantastic. I might even strip some layers off. Thankfully, I didn't make that call, because I was wearing so many fucking layers. I had a skins top, then I had a layer of like a long sleeve thermal top, then I had arm warmers, then I had a jersey, and then I had like a vest to go over the top. And then on my head, I had a beanie, then I had a neck warmer on my neck, and then obviously my helmet. And then hands, I had surgical gloves, and then my actual gloves, which, if you have issues with cold hands, putting surgical gloves or latex gloves and like a plasticky kind of glove on your hand before you put your hand inside the actual glove is a fucking game changer. I recently got told that trick. I don't know what it is, but like, your hands sweat. It's disgusting, but your hands sweat inside the surgical glove, and it's just like this fucking pool of sweat, but it keeps your hands warm. So, and it protects, like, it helps the wind from, I guess what it does is it stops the wind from, it stops the gloves from getting wet from the sweat, and the wind from hitting the gloves and making it cold. So, game changer. And then I had my like boot covers on as well, and it was fucking frozen. Like, by the time I got to the bottom of King Lake after the descent, it was fucking freezing. Like, my teeth were chattering. It was ridiculous. So that was a good ride, and thankfully I didn't have to run after my ride today. Yesterday I did, misjudged it. Thought I was gonna only have to do 6Ks, ended up being 8, and I was like, it wasn't a fast run, so it was easy, but I was like, I'd already planned out where I was gonna run, and then I just had to add an extra 2Ks on the end, which was like, I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't a big deal at all, but I didn't want to do it at the time. And then last night, Caitlin and I, we were going to make vegan butter chicken, but then we decided, fuck it, we'll go get burgers instead. Went to Grilled, and I initially got one burger, and then we got Schnitz chips, because Schnitz chips are the shit. The Schnitz. Got one burger, sat down, like it took probably 10 minutes, and then I ate it, and I was like, oh, man, I want another burger. And I was like, I'll eat a few chips and see how I feel after that. Ate a few chips, and I was like, I'm going to get another burger. So I ordered a second one, and that was also delicious. Grilled vegan burgers, the bomb. Then we found this pretzel place that does vegan pretzels, and I got just a cinnamon sugar one, and Caitlin got a Biscoff one, which was fucking amazing. I was stealing all the Biscoff spread. I was dipping my one in there. It did look a little bit like poop, like diarrhea, but it tasted wonderful. So, looks aren't everything sometimes. And in this case, they certainly weren't. And then, so here we are now recording this podcast, ready to go out to you guys tonight, Sunday night, the 11th of July. I should probably start stating the date at the start of each of my podcasts. I probably should do that. So there was this, I was listening to the Two Bears, One Cave podcast. I'm not going to play it here because it's a bit like, I don't know, if you go and look it up, I'm not going to play it here because some people might take it the wrong way. Not that there's that many people that listen to this, but so if you want to hear something that will catch you so off guard, it will feel like someone has just punched you in the side of the face. Go to the Two Bears, One Cave podcast on Apple Podcasts, episode 87, and skip in 50 minutes, I think it is. Yeah, skip in 50 minutes and then just listen. You'll know when it hits you because it's big. It is hilarious. I laughed personally. I don't know if it's for everyone, but I know I fucking laughed for a very long time. So, go check that one out. I'm just going to have a look at my notes. That's right. So, what I've been trying to do to give myself, because a week's a long time, I think of a lot of shit. So, what I've tried to do is write down stuff that I think of while I'm exercising when I finish. So, I'm like, I thought of this, and this. Quick, write it down. Make note of it in my notes app. I've actually changed notes apps too. I changed to Bear. I used to use Apple Notes, but I feel like, I don't know, I read somewhere that Bear Notes are better. So I've jumped on that bandwagon. I'm going to see how that goes. So I will let you know if they're any better, because I am a huge notes fan. Notes and reminders. I love them. I have like fucking lists going. I have notes for everything because I just find it so useful. Like if you think of something, just write it down. That way it's there. You've got a reference point. Anyway, that's what I've been trying to do. Every time I finish a run, a ride, or something, I'll make sure I take down notes of the stuff I've, touched on or thought about, because it froze there for a second. Hopefully I didn't miss any dribble. But so I try and take down notes after I finish, because I think of things that I want to talk about on the podcast, and I'm like, I'll forget it over the process of the week. So one of the things I thought about while running, I've actually thought about this a few times, and I decided to finally Google it. So whenever I'm running, there's always rabbits running across the trail here and there, like all over the place. And I'm always like, why the fuck do rabbits are so camouflaged, you can't see them until they move. And then you see their white ass or their white tail. And it's like, why the fuck would you evolve to have a white tail? It's like a giant fucking target on your ass. So I've thought about this many times, and I was like, I need to fucking Google this to find out. And turns out it actually makes so much sense. So the reason they have that is so that if they're getting chased by a predator, say a fox, for example, they can be running, and then just dart sideways, and the fox has been focusing on the white tail of their ass, and then all of a sudden they turn sideways and they're completely camouflaged in the grass. So the fox is like, it just fucking scatters it because it's been focusing on this bright white, fur. And all of a sudden it's changed to bloody brown, and then it's like, or grey, and now it's like, where did the rabbit go? So I thought that was pretty cool. So fun fact, if you take anything away from this podcast, It's it's why rabbits have white tails. I guess before we get into the thick of what I'm going to talk about today, it's that. That is if you make it that far. So, yeah, I'm actually excited because when I put this out, it's going to definitely bump my views or downloads up to over 100, which is huge for me. I never expected to actually have anyone listen to this or download this or pay any attention to this podcast. And over 3 episodes, I've had like 95 downloads. So I'm pretty chuffed about that. It's not like, I don't know if that's a lot or if that's none at all. But for me, I'm just pumped that people are listening. So thank you if you're listening to this right now. I really appreciate it. And every single listen gets appreciated. So if you can share this with your mates, if you think they will enjoy it, share it with them, because, the more listeners, the merrier. So thank you. I don't know where I was going with that, but we will dart off on another tangent. I was also thinking, I think this wasn't yesterday, it might have been Thursday. I was actually going to do a story about it, and I was like, nah, save it for the podcast, because that way you can talk about it. You don't have to rush. You don't have to keep it to the bloody limit of a story or, whatever. So, and I guess it's exclusive content to people who actually listen to this story. So, you're welcome, guys. Yeah, I was thinking there are so many cool people in like your little group of friends or the people that you know. Think of all the stories that the people that you know have. Like in your little group of mates or whatever, think of all the cool stories that are in that little group. Now imagine that that's the case for every single person in the world. And I'm sure some people have some fucking whopper stories too. And now think about how many people actually get to hear those stories. None. Barely any. Like, it's just the people in their circle that probably hear those stories, or even less. Probably just the people in their closest, tightest circle get to hear the stories that they've got. And I was just thinking about that. I was like, holy shit. That's insane. Like, I know some people, like, the way that this stemmed from me thinking about people that I could potentially have on my podcast and talk to, people that I know, have some pretty cool shit to say. And, like, they're not famous by any means. They're just people doing cool stuff. And it dawned on me, I was like, this is the case for so many people. So many people have bloody cool shit to say, and no one's ever going to get to hear it because, they're not famous or they don't have a platform. They're not on Joe Rogan Experience. So I was like, cool, I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind, and I'm going to just, make note of people that have told me some pretty cool shit, and I will probably eventually get them on. I know decided on one big dog that I'm going to get on, Big Shane Egan, the Grey Wolf. He's done some pretty cool shit. He was with Ben and I when we did 2 Bays, so he's 100% coming on this podcast at some point, probably after Ben. But yeah, before I get anyone on, I think I've said this before, I'd like to just try and find a nice rhythm and find my own, get the volume and shit right, learn how to do all this properly so that I don't fuck it up when I have someone else on. Because I don't mind fucking it up when I'm by myself, because it doesn't really matter. But when someone else is on, then it's a different story. So I'll probably end up buying another mic as well, so that the sound quality can be very crisp. What else? Oh, so decided to play or buy Monopoly Deal the other week, because I've seen wonderful things on social media. Apparently it is a very addictive, fun game, or fun version of Monopoly, and can confirm it is. Played a couple of games last night with Caitlin, and I won 2 of 3. But yeah, it's fun. Doesn't last as long, so you don't have to settle in for like 6 hours. You can rip through a couple of games in, I don't know, probably takes like 10 minutes maybe a game so far. Takes a little bit to kind of understand and get used to, but once you get the hang of it, so much fun. So I will be playing more of that, probably today as well. And I'll probably end up making that vegan butter chicken as well that I was going to make last night. So very excited for tonight's dinner already. And it's only like 12 o'clock. So looking forward to that. All right. So pleasantries out of the way. I don't usually, like, I don't decide on the topic of these podcasts as such. I kind of just let them fall into my lap. And during the week, this one did. I was on a run and I just thought of it because it was so fucking cold. I was like, I didn't really want to be there. Like, let's be honest, I'm struggling a little bit mentally to push myself through, parts where I just, when usually, like, go back pre-Ironman, when I didn't want to do things, I was like, just do it. It's for the Ironman, like, you'll be fine. Just keep pushing. Whereas I think I've used all my mental toughness. I used a lot of my mental toughness around the Ironman, like leading up to it and during. So now I'm, struggling a little bit in that department. And I was running and it was freezing cold. I was like, I don't want to fucking be here. I don't want to do this shit. I was like, why am I doing this? And then I was like, this is a good topic to discuss on the podcast. And it is the topic of motivation versus discipline. Motivation is great, don't get me wrong. But a while ago, I stumbled on the fact that it's like, I think motivation is bullshit. If you rely on motivation for something, you are fucked. It's not going to get you there. It can't. It might get you, to a couple of workouts, but that's it. Like, you can't be motivated all the time. It's impossible. And if someone tells you they are, they're full of shit, because you just can't be. There is not a single person on this planet that is, every time they rock up to the gym, going to be like, yes, I'm going to fucking rep this. Not motivated all the time. No fucking way. It's discipline. Discipline is what gets you through those dark days. When it's fucking freezing outside and you don't want to get up. You don't want to get out of bed and go and run or go and ride or do whatever. Discipline is what fucking rips you out of bed and says, all right, mate, come on, you've got to do this. You don't have a choice. And that's that. Like, discipline is so important. Like, motivation is good and it helps you. It helps you go that little bit extra sometimes. But discipline is what gives you that base. You can rely on discipline all day, every day if you've got it. So that's, like, I guess people have asked, like, how do you stay motivated to train? It's like, it's not about that. I'm not motivated all the time. Like, during that Ironman training block, I was not fucking motivated. Sorry, I'm just going to move my bag. I was not motivated. Bro, that shit sucked. Like, I was motivated for the first 2 weeks, and then I realized how hard it was going to be, and I was like, it's only going to get worse. Fuck. And then I was like, I just have to accept that this is what it's going to be. So, like, motivation is great, but it's very fleeting, and discipline is what got me through that. I was not motivated every session at all. It's so fucking hard. And, like, motivation is great if you want to start a session, but if you're going for a 5-6 hour ride, like, yeah, it might help you get out the fucking door and on the bike. But once you're on the bike, like, what? Motivation's not going to last for 6 hours. Fuck no. You have to be disciplined and you have to know that you can, I guess, push and keep going, and you need, like, it almost has to be a need. Like, it has to be like a job. It has to be something you have to do, a non-negotiable. And that's how I look at things. That's how I look at my training. Like, I know what I've got to do during the week, and I do it. It's a non-negotiable. I don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, I don't really want to do this. I won't. I'm just going to go back to sleep. I get up, at a certain time, and I go out. I go and do what I've got to do because it's something I have to do. And, like, that's discipline. That's not motivation. So I wanted to try and, like, kind of go into depth on discipline versus motivation, and I guess, just talk about it, because I believe it is so important in terms, like, when you want to train for something, or when like, it applies to life in general. You need to be disciplined. You need to be disciplined in life. Motivation is very fleeting, and if you rely on it, you are screwed. So I guess discipline for me is, I don't know where I got it from, or how I kind of stumbled on it, but because I was a pretty lazy young kid, very, very chubby, and I think that led me, that has almost overcorrected my mentality. So when I was younger, probably when I was just starting out football training, I was very chubby, very lazy. I don't think I've told this story on the podcast. I haven't. So great, you guys are in for a treat. So my mum would, like, I was overweight. I wasn't super fat, but I was overweight. And my mum would try and make me go for walks after school, just to try and, be active a bit, because I wasn't doing anything. And I'd be like, I would hate it. I never wanted to go ever until I realized that I could grab some Tiny Teddies, a bag of shapes, and a roll up and go for a walk and eat them and then come back. So that's exactly what I used to do. I would, raid the pantry for some snacks, and then I would walk just far enough to be out of sight, and I would just sit down, eat some snacks, and then come back, 10 minutes later and be like, I did my walk. Then I would look for, that was pretty early on. Then later on when I started playing football, I would look for excuses to get out of footy training. So I'd I'm always injured. I've always got something wrong with me. And I think that has led me to now have the mentality that nothing is good enough. There is no excuse, which is not a good mentality to have, but it's something I'm working through and working on. But it's led me to have the mentality of nothing is good enough. There is no good enough excuse to not be able to do it. Nothing. Unless you're fucking injured badly, very sick, or dead. There is no excuse. And that's kind of where I get my drive from. So I guess it's led me down some pretty bad paths, which I will touch on a few later, but not in this podcast, but in another one. But one of the main ones, it's led me to get injured quite a bit because I don't see the signs, and I think, no, you're just being a little pussy, keep pushing. That's how I did my back last year. I was sore. I was very sore in the weeks leading up to it, and I could feel like my glute was very tight. My hips were tight. Everything was getting tight and tighter and tighter. And I was like, no, you're a fucking pussy. Just keep pushing. You'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, bang, I was injured. So it's just, I've slowly, I've learned. I actually got a question that relates directly to this. I'll read it out from Amy. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just rolling through my Instagram. It is when to know when you've taken discipline too far. See, I've done this multiple times. It's a bad habit I've got because I tend to just keep going. I'm like, I don't know that it's not necessary to, push beyond, but I do because I feel like I have to. And I think it's a lesson I've slowly started to learn, especially with this Ironman training block and listening to my coaches and James, who was a bit of a mentor. And it's just learning that something that he said that stuck with me was there are some days where getting that extra half an hour of sleep instead of going and doing your swim or going and doing a ride or a run is going to benefit you more because you're going to be able to recover and hit the next session harder than actually getting up and breaking your body down. So if you think of it like this, so every time you train, you break your body down to a certain level, then your body recovers and then you adapt and you get fitter in the recovery. It's not the actual breaking down. So the hardest part of an Ironman training block is being able to show up, consistently and just keep showing up. That is going to benefit you more than if you hit every session, max out and then get injured and then don't finish the block. You're better off showing up to, say, 80% of them than showing up to 100, getting injured, and then 0. So you got to think of longevity I'm using this Ironman block as an example because it's the most recent in my mind and it's something that I've gone through, recently. So you've got to think of the longevity of it. If you take this morning off in order to allow your body to recover because you're feeling sick, you're sore, you're tired, does that mean that you're going to be able to hit tomorrow's session at 100%? Are you going to be able to hit it harder tomorrow? And I think that's just a lesson that I've learned is you've got to think of those. If you're training consistently all the time, taking a fucking day off is going to be good for you. So many people, I was caught in the trap too. So many people get caught in the trap of no rest days. I remember there was I think it was almost over a year that I didn't take a single day off. I trained every single day, all day, not all day, but I trained every day. And I was fit, but you need a fucking day off mentally and physically. So even if during the Ironman training block, the rest days were actually, it wasn't a rest day. It was either a Monday swim or you would try and pick up recovery on the Sunday and the Monday. So the Saturday was obviously the biggest day. You would ride ride for 5 to 6 hours and then run, I think it was like 8 to 14 Ks off the bike. So you'd be looking at 7 to 8 hour training day of actual training. And then you would have, obviously time so it'd be more than 8 hours because you would stop for a fucking drink when you're on your ride, or stop for, a couple of minutes to go to the toilet or something. So you were looking at over 8 hours of training on the Saturday. And then the Sunday you would have a long, easy run. So it would have been like a 2-hour run at an easy pace. So you're looking to try and pick up recovery on that easy run because you're keeping it at a pace that's like, yes, it's, you're still running, but it's not a pace that's going to make your body break down. So your body has broken down on the Sunday. You've just fucking trashed it on the Saturday, sorry. Then you wake up, you go into the run on the Sunday and your body doesn't get broken down anymore because you're running at a pace that allows you to, I guess, start the recovery process. Yeah, it's a long time, but I guess when you've done the training up to that point, your body's kind of used to it. So for me, it was hitting that run on the Sunday at a slow pace, keeping the heart rate in zone 2, which was below or around 140 beats per minute for me. So keeping the heart rate in that level or at that zone allowed me to start the recovery process. So then when I rolled into Monday morning's swim, it was, about getting the distance. Mondays was never really any hard efforts. It was more so long, steady pace. So it might be like 800s or 1K efforts or, 400s or something like that at a pace that is maintainable. So never, going out doing max effort hundreds. It was slow, steady pace. So I've kind of just gone off on a bit of a tangent, I think. But hopefully this makes sense to you guys, because I kind of got lost in my thoughts then. But I guess I don't even know where I started with this. Oh my gosh. Anyway, recovery. That's right. Discipline, recovery, in order. How to know when you've taken discipline too far. So yeah, you need to allow your body time to recover. And if you keep breaking your body down, you're just going to end up injured. And the funny part about that is when you get injured, you can't do anything. So your body has time to recover. It's like your body saying to you, all right, mate, you've had your chance. Fuck you. I'm done. We're not doing anything anymore. And it just stops. Like that's exactly what it's like. So I felt that last year. And when it hurt my back, that was probably the biggest learning experience I've had. So I've learned to implement things to like warming up before every session, warming up and activating before every session, stretching and cooling down properly after every session. Like I've learned things, valuable lessons, taking time, skipping one session now is going to save you from skipping, 3 or 4 weeks of sessions if you keep pushing it down, if you keep pushing yourself down that path, because you will end up fucking injured. And that's your body just drawing the line and saying, nope, not doing this anymore. So I guess when to know that you've taken discipline too far, it's fucking hard. I haven't nailed it and I'm still learning, but I guess all you can do is try and take a lesson away each time. Like if you're aware of it, if you're aware that you have that problem, which I am, I definitely have that fucking issue. Like I guess it's not really an issue though, is it? It's a positive trait to have. You've just got to know how to use it. So you just got to be aware of it, make note. And every time you find yourself, you've burnt yourself out, then say, all right, how could I have done this differently? And actually learn from it and take that into consideration. That's how I've tried to look at things lately, is just try and learn from it and, put that in your bag of tricks for next time. So yeah, it's fucking hard to know when you are pushing your discipline too far, but just try and be aware of it. It's definitely it's hard too, because it can blind you. Like I've been in that hole before where I know more, like I've thought more was always better. That was my attitude. It's probably 2 years ago or 2 or 3 years ago. I was in that hole of, I would train for a stupid amount of time every day. And in total, I'd train for a stupid amount of time over the week and I wouldn't have a rest day. So it was just, my attitude was more is always better, and that's not the case. I've learned so much in this Ironman training block or training journey that more isn't always better. Like, sometimes the quality of the shit you do is better, and being smart about it. You can get away with doing a lot by training, less, and just being smart with it, because you allow yourself to actually break down or train and then recover. You get the adaptations in the recovery process. Whereas if you just keep breaking your body down, you're never going to adapt to recover, and you're actually going to get worse. Your fitness and your strength and everything is going to get worse, as opposed to getting better when you allow yourself to recover. So for me, I've learned that's probably, the biggest lesson I've learned in this whole fucking training block is that recovery is, massively important. Sorry, I just knocked the mic. Recovery is massively important. It's just as important as the training component of it, because without the recovery, you're not going to actually adapt and get better. So, yeah, it's a minefield. And like I know it's hard because everyone has told me this. For years I've been told this. You just have to fucking, like, the hardest part is you learn it, you find it out the hard way most of the time. Like, you find it out by experiencing it. And that's what I did. I found out by experiencing it. Like, I heard it countless times, didn't listen. Like, the one at the moment that's getting me is hydrating more when I'm on the bike. I know I need to drink more when I'm on the bike, but I don't, because if you drink more on the bike, or the philosophy behind it is, if I drink more on the bike, then I'm going to be on top of my hydration, so that when I finish my bike and I finish my run or whatever, I'm going to have to drink less to actually top my body back up. Whereas if I don't drink properly on the bike, then I'm already behind, so that when I finish, I'm running and I'm going to be further behind. And then I'm going to spend the day trying to replenish my stores, and my body's not going to get time to recover, because it's like, bro, we need water. Whereas if I top them up straight away, then I finish my ride and my body can start recovering properly sooner. So that's a lesson that I'm learning at the moment, and I need to try and fucking break this cycle of hearing lessons from other people that have learnt them the hard way and just ignoring them and being like, no, I'm different, and then it hitting me, and then me having to learn the hard way, and me being like, fuck, should have just listened to them. So I know people, if anyone listens to this, I've got to stop saying that, I know people listen to this. If you listen to this and you hear, like, and I tell my experiences and give my advice, like, listen to it and take it into consideration, and you don't have to action it. You don't need to action anything. Like, that's something that I've started to kind of lean into, is I'm not actioning advice straight away, but I will be aware. So I'll flick my awareness onto it. So what I've done now is I've started noticing how I recover when I do hydrate properly throughout the session. I've started being aware of that, and that has led me to believe, or led me to see, that they're right. Or James is right. I need to drink more when I fucking ride, because when I do, I recover way better and feel awesome. So just be aware. If I mention, like, I have learned a lot of lessons the hard way. So if I talk about something on here, you don't need to fucking follow me blindly. Just acknowledge it, and I guess be aware of it when you're experiencing something similar. And it could help you avoid making a big mistake, because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that, fall into that trap of being over disciplined and just end up with injuries because they didn't listen, or they thought they were right when there were people around them telling them that they're not. So there's another thing that, this is just fucking random as, sorry to drop this in the middle of a serious chat, but when I was running, I thought of something. Like, I remember as a kid in Kangaroo Ground, there used to be this albino, however you want to pronounce it, kangaroo, that we'd actually see at primary school occasionally. And it led me down the path of thinking, because I was already thinking about rabbits, and then this kangaroo, I don't know why I thought about this now, but this kangaroo was albino, and I was like, the Easter Bunny is depicted as a very large, person-sized bunny that carries around Easter eggs and delivers them to people. Now, it led me to think that what if the Easter Bunny was actually based off a fucking albino kangaroo or a albino kangaroo? Because think about it, it makes a lot of sense. This giant or this very tall person-sized rabbit, like they look, if you shrunk down a kangaroo and made it the size of a rabbit, it would look very similar. It would be very funny, but it would look similar. The only thing that's different is the fucking tail. So, like, what if it was based off a giant albino kangaroo? Or not even a giant, just a normal-sized albino kangaroo. Think about that for a second. It hops around. The Easter Bunny hops around on its hind legs, can carry Easter eggs in the fucking pouch, and it's white and delivers chocolate. Like, it makes complete sense to me. So from this moment on, I will never look at an Easter Bunny the same. I will always look at it as just a kangaroo, because I thought, when I thought this, I actually checked it up. There's no pictures of the Easter Bunny carrying eggs in its pouch. Like, I thought I had seen something like that, but I hadn't. So that was wrong. But I still think I'm onto something here. Like, the conspiracy has been cracked wide open. So yeah, I hope you guys all now think of the Easter Bunny as a fucking kangaroo. So you're welcome for that. Now I'm going to try and pull this back on track. So I've covered off that. How over-disciplining cannot be beneficial. So I want to talk about motivation and how and when to use motivation, or how I think you should use motivation. So motivation should be used in short bursts. Sorry, I'm just going to have a little sippy of water. Motivation should be used in short bursts, in my opinion, because that's all it's good for. You can't use it in long, sustained things because it's just not going to happen. So how I usually use it is I'll start my session. Just say I'm doing, let's use an example of a 4-hour ride, okay? So I'm doing a 4-hour ride. I will use discipline to get myself out of bed, start in the cold, start my ride, maybe play a podcast or something. And then usually 2.5 hours in, I'll have, like, my ass will be a bit sore from the seat. I'll be like a bit exhausted. I'll be like, all right, I'm over this now. Like, I've been going for a while. That's when I'll use motivation. When I start to struggle, I'll be like, all right, let's flick through the brain and find some applicable motivation right now to get me through the next half an hour, because that's all you got to do. I don't need to get myself through the next hour and a half. I need to get myself through the next 15 minutes or half an hour, because I know it's like a roller coaster, as all endurance things are. It's like a fucking roller coaster. You have dips and you have peaks, and I'm in a dip and I just want to get enough motivation to get myself out of the dip and back to the peak. So that's what I do. I'll find something. So say, I would use my Ironman, for example, obviously, because it's the most recent thing I've done. I would be in a dip and I'd be like, no, think of the Ironman, like, think of finishing, and I'd get all emotional about finishing and be like, all right, yeah, fucking suck it up, you'll be fine. And that would pull me through, and I'd get to the top of the next peak, and I would ride that bitch all the way home. So you've got to use motivation in spurts. Now, I know it's different, like when you've got a 30-minute gym session, it's different to a 4-hour ride. But see, if I was to use motivation for gym, I'd try and make it not so much long-term motivation, but I'd visualize a long-term goal. And I'd say, all right, if I didn't want to train, or didn't want to do a certain thing, it was going to be really hard. I'd think, okay, what's my long-term goal? I want to, look jacked. All right, fine. In order to look jacked, I need to tick this box. And then you just get into it straight away. And almost rip the Band-Aid off. I find that's another thing too. I don't know if this is relevant at all, but I find, all right, we're going to rewind all the way back to the start, because this is a new topic in it of itself. So a while ago, probably nearly a year and a half or 2 years ago, when I first started listening to podcasts, I was listening to Steve-O's one. It's Wild Ride with Steve-O, the guy from Jackass. And he said, he told a story about how he started just counting down from 5 when he didn't want to do things. So he would say, I think the example he used, he was jumping off a roof into a fucking spa and he didn't want to do it. And he fucked himself up when he did it. But how he did it, he was like, all right, I'm just going to count down from 5. And he set a rule that if he ever counted down like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and didn't go, like that wasn't allowed. You had to do it. It was a non-negotiable. And I heard that and I was like, I rate that idea. So I'll always, if I don't want to do something, I will count down from 5. Like I use it all the time when I'm getting in the pool in the morning and it's like a little bit nippy. It's not freezing cold because it's obviously a heated pool, but when I don't want to get in and it's, you know, not pleasant jumping in straight away, I'll always be like, all right, 5, 4 and count down and then just jump in straight away as soon as it hits 1 or 0, because that's a rule I've set for myself. And I feel like that maybe setting a rule like that could be applicable for if you're more into doing like sprint effort stuff. Use the example of say CrossFit, then you're about to start a workout. Like when I do little CrossFit stuff, I always have I use this app. It's actually fucking wonderful. Dr. Fat, Benjamino and I, it's called WOD Timer, Smart WOD Timer, iPhone, Android. It's the fucking best. You can do AMRAPs, EMOMs, you know, customize everything. You can even do like normal, you know, 45 on, 15 off, whatever. So use that and it has a 10-second countdown. And once that starts, I'm going to start when it hits 0 or when the buzzer goes off. So I think that's another good way to, I guess, keep yourself accountable is just fucking start the clock. Once you start the clock, you're in. And the only way to, you know, get through it is to fucking do the work and get through the other side. Like probably like 2 years ago, before I started doing my tri training, before I got right into that, I would do a lot. We used to call it Send It Tuesdays, Ben and I, and we would do like, I would pick one workout in the morning on a Tuesday where I would just fucking send it. Like it might be, you know, 35 minutes, could be an hour, could be fucking 5 minutes. And it would just be brutal. It would be like something, I'll use an example. There was one that fucked me up real good. It was like 1 minute on, 2 minutes off. And it was, I think, just a 20 cal row and then max burpee box jump overs in the remaining time. So that 20 cal row you would rip out in, I don't know, like 30 seconds and then 30 seconds max effort burpee box jump overs. And I'd probably do 5 rounds of that. So 15 minutes. You're only working for 5 and you are fucking dead. Like I'd get to the end of it and I'd be like, yep, I'm going to go to sleep. Like that's it. It kills you. But once you start the clock, you're in. And the only way to get through it is to give it your all and get through the other side. So if you can take that on as advice, then wonderful. I also did see something, like I was thinking about, I don't know how I got to this, but I saw something on Instagram and it was about complaining and about how, I guess, complaining can be pointless. And I agree to a certain extent, because complaining about things, we actually set a rule when we did 2 bays that we were not allowed to complain during, which meant that we had to suffer internally. So I think that complaining has its place. Like I think you should be able to voice your complaints about things. Like just say you've had a shit day at work. I think you should voice your complaints, but I think you should just voice them once. Just give your reason once. So, this was, you know, today was hard because this so-and-so said this, and they should have really said, like, they should have fucking, you know, done this instead of just, you know, pissing everyone off or something like that, whatever. Like, I think complaining has a place. You just need to limit it, because if you over complain, like, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any worse. So get it off your chest and then just lock that bitch in a box and never mention it. And don't need to mention it again. You don't need to mention it every 5 minutes, because it doesn't achieve anything if you keep complaining. It's just going to create like an echo chamber in your head, and you're going to put yourself back in that moment when you were frustrated or when you were sore or when you were, you know, dealing with some shit. Like, all you're going to do is put yourself back in that box and you're going to feel frustrated, and it's just going to amplify it. Whereas if you just get it off your chest, move on, then, you know, you move on to new, greater things. And I found myself, I can't remember what it was, but I found myself, whenever I start dwelling on certain things, I will say, all right, like, you've been dwelling on this for a while. It's consuming your energy. It's consuming your emotions. You need to let it go now or confront it. Like, if something's bothering me about something or whatever, I need to either confront it in that situation. I need to confront it and move on, or I need to just let it the fuck go. And I'll make a decision, and once I've made that decision, it is final, and I'm not allowed to dwell on it anymore. And that has helped me exponentially. There have been not so many things, but there are like some things that have happened that, bum me out a bit, and I'm like thinking about it, and it just, every time you think about it, you feel worse and worse, and you're like, oh, this sucks. But once you kind of set it up to say, all right, why does it suck? And if you usually get to a point where you've got your two choices. You either confront the fact and fix it, or you let it go and move on. And once you make a choice, once you decide on which path you're going to go down, it just disappears. Never, like, it might come back up, but you can say, no, I've already dealt with this. Move on. And it's so freeing. So that's another fucking hot tip. If you're looking for something to do, give that a whirl. Shit. I want to start. I don't know how to promote this podcast on. I'm not going to pick that pen up because I'm going to start clicking it, and it is going to be annoying. I want to figure out how I can try and promote this podcast better on Instagram and stuff by doing like sound clips and bites and little, bits and bobs to just put out there. And today I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out a way to mark the podcast when I'm recording it, like hit a button and leave a little sound bite or like a start and a finish of a gem of information that I can use to, promote it a bit. And we are 50 minutes in and I have not done that. So I guess we'll be doing it next week. Because I would like to try and put a bit of effort into promoting it so more people can listen, more people can hear. But also word of mouth helps. So I'm going to drop it in again. If you guys can share with your mates, wonderful. I'd really appreciate it. It would not go unseen. So I've forgotten to do that. I will not be marking this point because I'm lost for words, apparently. So I am going to wrap it up slowly, I reckon, or soon, not slowly. I am going to jump into some questions. Now, I'm going to keep them anonymous, but there's some good ones. So obviously, I covered off when to know when you've taken discipline too far earlier. That was a fucking wonderful question. And it's something, I'm sure a lot of people struggle with. It's just a learning experience, and you've just got to be mindful and acknowledge that if that's something that you struggle with, then you've got to look for the warning signs and learn how to manage it. That's the only way. And I guess speak to people that have dealt with it before. That's another hot tip. Oh, I totally forgot to say. So I got a pair of Vivos the other day, the barefoot toe, wide shoes. Barefoot simulating shoes, I suppose. And I've had them in the past before. I got them real cheap. So I've had them in the past before, and they were just real fugly looking ones, like a little bit too big, so they weren't that comfortable. Whereas these ones I've got right now are fucking amazing. I've worn them nonstop the last couple of days. And I will do so, I'll wear them as much. Like, I'm either going to wear these when I'm not training. I'm either going to be wearing these or my slides. That's how it's going to be. So I'm very, very excited. Very happy that they're comfortable. Fun facts fun little adventure in my life. What else did I get that was... I didn't get anything else. So I thought I had something else cool that I got, but I didn't. Yesterday I bought some chocolate coated freeze-dried strawberries at the bulk food store, and I ate the whole bag. Caitlin was like... I don't know where this story came from, but Caitlin asked for one and I handed her the bag all scrunched up because I ate them all. So I'm going to have to go get more today because they're amazing. I don't know where the fuck that story came from. Anyway, moving back to the questions that I was going to answer but got distracted. That's the beauty of this podcast, isn't it? Is I can get as distracted as I want and go on as many tangents as I want and no one can fucking stop me. I suppose you guys could just stop listening to me and I would probably get the message eventually, but I like to think that there are people out there that will listen to this, and I hope that one day this podcast grows to the point that I can share stories of cool people that, probably otherwise wouldn't have had their story shared. So yes, this is an individual podcast, but I would also like to share the stories of people, I get the privilege of meeting in life. Anyway, moving on to the questions. So this very strange human being asks, do you think reward or punishment is more powerful when it comes to discipline? Now, this is a fucking fantastic question. So I like to say reward is more powerful, because the way I look at discipline is, I apologize. I'm using my Ironman as another example. My reward was finishing that race well. And that's how I guess, imprinted that the discipline on my brain was like, all right, I want to fucking do this race well. I want to get there, and I want to have the confidence in myself that I've done all the training I can to finish this. And that's what I did. I had the discipline to do every fucking session that I could. I ticked every single box that I could to get to there and be as ready as possible. And that was kind of like a reward system for me. So that's how I kind of, that's what I based it off, is the reward of finishing that race well. So I guess for me, it is more powerful. The reward of doing something well is more powerful than the punishment for not doing it well. But in saying that, I feel like it's the same thing, because if I didn't do everything in order, like if I didn't tick all the boxes to get to my Ironman and I didn't do all the hard work to get there and do it well, then I wouldn't have finished it well. And then I would know exactly why I didn't do as well. And that would be punishment, because I would be like, I'd be aware of the fact that I, didn't complete it because I was fucking lazy and missed sessions and thought I was, didn't need to train for it. And then I'd be disappointed, and that disappointment would be punishment. So I guess it's the same shit, basically. That's what I've kind of, worked myself to through this conversation with myself, is that I think the punishment and the reward is the same thing, because if you are successful, you get rewarded with success. If you're not successful, you get punished with knowing that you could have done more. So I've just blown my own mind. You're welcome, guys. In short, I'm going to mark this as a soundbite. Do I think reward or punishment is more powerful when it comes to discipline? I think the reward and the punishment are the same thing. It just depends on how disciplined you are in the lead up to that event or that certain situation. If you're disciplined enough, you will get rewarded with success. If you're not disciplined enough, you will get punished with failure. Boom. Mic drop. I'm gonna flag this, and you'll see this on Instagram. Or if you haven't listened to this entire podcast, you will just see this bite, and you won't hear me saying this now. Next question. What is your top tip for people with poor time management? Wow, this is wonderful. So poor time management is a fucking shit one. I find myself falling into the trap of poor time management when I don't have enough things to do. So whenever I've got a lot of things on, I will always be better with my time, because it's like, all right, I can't afford to slack off. I need to do this. All right. And like, I'm super organized when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I know that, if I have a jam-packed day and I have to be at a certain place at a certain time, I'll know that, all right, I have to get up at 4 o'clock. I'll have to start training at the latest by 5 o'clock. I'll have to be finished at this time. So that might mean if I have to be somewhere, I think this happened once when I was in my Ironman training, I had to be somewhere at like 1 o'clock. So I was like, all right, I have to fucking get up and I have to start riding by 6, because I have, a 6-hour ride. And then I have a certain amount of time to get ready. I have a certain amount of time to run. And then I was like, I can't stop for more than 30 minutes in the duration of this ride, because that'll throw me out of whack. So I think doing more things helps me personally be more organized. So if I was to have a tip for people with poor time management, you've got to just I honestly, I don't really know, because I'm not bad with time management, but I guess if you have, the more things you have to do, the smoother it is because you're jam-packed with, I don't know where the fuck I'm going with this. I am so sorry. I'm not going to cut this out either because this is a real podcast. But yeah, time management, just, I guess, write shit down. Have a list. Like, I know that's how I manage my work in the mornings, or I start it the day before. So before I leave work, I'll write a list of, say 5 or 6 things I need to do the next day. And then when I come in, I'll do those things straight away. That way I'm not wasting time when I get into work. And then I'll obviously have more things that will come up during the course of the day that I'll write down, and I will just work my way down the list. There are going to be things, it's not necessarily in order. Some things will be quicker than others, and I'll usually just tick the easy, short, sharp shit off as soon as I get into work. So it gives me time to warm up the gears. So yeah, I suppose lists are a fucking wonderful thing. And deadlines. Make sure you set yourself deadlines for stuff, because if you don't have a deadline, then it can take forever. And I know for me, if something can take forever, it's going to take forever. So even today's podcast recording, I have a deadline and I'm going to stick to that. So yeah, setting lists, deadlines, and just try and hold yourself accountable, I suppose, when it comes to poor time management. And last question of the day is, would you rather fight one rhino-sized praying mantis or 1,000 praying mantis-sized rhinos? See, now I feel like this could be a trick question, because if you don't know anything about praying mantises, you would get fucked the fuck up by a rhino-sized one. So I would definitely fight the 1,000 praying mantis-sized rhinos, because 1, that would be fun. They would be so adorable. And 2, a fucking rhino-sized praying mantis would be so fucking deadly. Are you serious? If aliens come down from space and they are rhino-sized praying mantises, we are royally fucked. Have you seen those things? Go and look on YouTube of a praying mantis eating a fucking hummingbird. Those motherfuckers will catch the hummingbird as it's, trying to drink water and just eat it alive. They'll start eating its fucking brain. They are fucking savages. So there is no way in hell I'm going to want to fight a fucking rhino-sized praying mantis, because it would probably rip my arms off and just eat me alive. So fuck that. And that is all the questions that I have for today's podcast. I am just going to review my notes real quick to make sure that I've ticked everything off, because we don't want to be missing anything. I mean, it's not like I'm doing one next week that I can catch it all up on. So, speaking of next week, I don't know what next week's topic will be. It will fall in my lap, I presume, tomorrow at some stage, or midway through the week. Regardless of that, I will be writing down all the cool things I think of, because it's hilarious. It's not hilarious because that's just how I do things. Oh, another thing. Oh, I get to finish watching. So, Caitlin and I started watching a movie last night after playing Monopoly called The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt. And that was actually really good. But I was starting to fall asleep, so we had to stop watching it. So we'll get to finish that today, which is awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to wrap this up. I will talk to you guys next week. This podcast will be live by 5:30 tonight. Not that it matters for you, because you'll be listening to it whenever the fuck you want to. You could listen to it multiple times too if you really wanted to. Personally, I probably wouldn't, but if you really wanted to, you could. So that is it for today's episode. I will chat to you guys next week. I hope you enjoy this, and please, if you have any feedback, let me know, because I'm always looking to improve. Hopefully the volume on this one is much better than the last few. And yeah, any tips, questions, feedback, hit me up. I'm always open and willing to make improvements. Unless you're trying to, shit can me, then, keep that shit to yourself. Please share this podcast and have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.